Hi, I'm Terry White. I am the writer and also an instructor for advanced education and training. And welcome to my blog post. I hope that you have been following me and enjoying the posts that I've been doing on relationships. And so this blog post is called Four Things to Do While on a Dating Audition. Yes, a dating audition. We all know that when it is your first date, or if you haven't been on a date in a while, it's pretty much an audition that first time you're with that person, whether it's a man or a woman. And so you're kind of on this trial to see if this is a person that you like enough to be in a long term relationship or a committed relationship, or if this is somebody that you just want to hang out with. But whatever the circumstance, is still what we would think of as an audition because you want to give it your best shot. You want to make sure that you're shining and that you're making your first impression. And so we want to talk about some things that you need to make sure that you do, not that you don't, but things that you do specifically and intentionally. One of those things that you want to do is ask specific questions. And what I mean by that is be intentional about the questions that you're asking and have an idea of what type of answers you're looking for when that other person answers those questions. So, for example, if you're asking questions about, where do they work or their employment, maybe the question may be, how long have you worked for the place that you've worked for? And then, you could probably follow that up. Well, what other kind of places have you worked? What other type of things have you done? These type of questions are going to give you the stability of the other person. And you want to listen for those type of things when you're asking those questions. Okay, so asking questions about, their family involvement, if they've ever been in a long-term relationship before. Um, those are some very specific and direct questions that people cannot typically divert from, by answering around that. So then some other questions or other things you want to do is listen for what they're not saying. So if you're asking that question about their employment or, how long have you worked for whatever company you've worked for, listen for what they're not saying. If they're not saying anything about, that they've been, working for another company but I really liked it at this place. And so I really wanted to be able to work there. What's in that gap that has happened that has caused them to feel like they have to move from job to job. So those sometimes are things that people don't say that you want to pay attention to. A lot of times we tend to kind of brush things under the rug, or we give them a pass because, it sounds good at the time. But you really want to be more in depth about some things that they're not saying to you, because that's going to help you to determine if this other person is hiding something, if they're something that they're not saying about their personality, or what's going on in their life at the time. And it's not that you have to get deep into that at that time because it is your first date, but it is something that you want to know before you're going to move on to another date. And so listen for the things that they're not saying. Look at some of the behaviors that they have. And that also leads me into the next thing that you want to do. You want to watch the behavior. You want to see what's happening, what's going on when you ask specific questions. Do they look at you directly? Are they looking away? Does it seem like they're getting nervous or anxious when you're asking or talking about specific issues? If you're a person who wants to have a family, and maybe this other individual, you don't know, they're saying that they do, but when you start talking about kids, they kind of brush it off, or, they kind of laugh it off or joke it off. That's some passive, that's some passive aggressive type behavior that you want to probably dig into a little bit deeper. Okay. So then let's also talk about some disclosing of personal information. This is a really, really big one that I think a lot of people have issues with on their first date. And the reason why they have issues is because they feel like, I want to kind of lay it all out on the table. I want to know if they're going to be able to deal with my luggage or my baggage that I have in the past. But this is not that date that you want to get into that type of discussion about. So I would say be very, very cautious. Do not be willing to give a lot of that personal and private information about yourself. Because remember, this is your first date. They're auditioning. You want to make sure that they make it to round two and round three before you start leaking out some personal and private information about yourself. So I hope you enjoyed this. Please continue to follow me. Look for some more real interesting discussions. As always, I would love to hear from you to know what kind of questions you have out there so that we can talk about them in our blog. Thank you. And as always, please check me out on advancedandtraining.mykajabi.com. Or if you're thinking that you're needing a consult, you can give me a call at 678-883-8609 for White Diamond Counseling Consulting Coaching. Thank you.